"This is private property. You have no right to do this," I yelled, standing toe-to-toe with the HOA representative in her pristine white dress, her clipboard pressed tightly against her chest. Behind us, my house-me home of 15 years was sealed shut, every window and door covered with plywood, rendering it completely inaccessible. All because I wouldn't tear out the memorial garden I'd planted for my late wife. What this power-hungry HOA president didn't know was that my brother, a 25-year Navy SEAL veteran, was arriving tomorrow and he was about to flip their own tactics back on them in ways they couldn't imagine. I'm David Carter, 45, a retired high school history teacher. For 15 years, I'd lived quietly in Pinewood Grove, a peaceful subdivision where I'd planned to spend my retirement. My modest two-story home became my sanctuary after my wife, Emily, passed away 3 years ago from cancer. The wildflower garden along the front walkway was the last thing we dreamed up together, her final wish to create something beautiful for the butterflies she loved watching from her hospice bed. Lillian Harper, early 40s, took over as HOA president 6 months ago. She stood before me now, her white dress crisp, steel-rimmed glasses framing a face set in perpetual disdain. A former corporate lawyer, she'd launched what she called a community standards overhaul with ruthless precision. The old board, mostly retirees who valued neighborly balance, had been reasonable. Lillian's style was different, aggressive, inflexible, and devoid of compromise. Property values built communities, she declared at her first meeting. Aesthetic unity is non-negotiable. Within weeks, 3 longtime board members mysteriously stepped down, replaced by strangers, young professionals tied to local real estate firms. Meanwhile, my younger brother, Ethan, 42, was wrapping up his final mission as a Navy SEAL team leader. After over 2 decades in special operations missions he rarely spoke of, though their weight showed in his steady, intense gaze, was transitioning to civilian life. We'd planned his VY sit for months. With just my son and grandson left as family, he needed time to unwind before charting his next path. His arrival would soon prove more pivotal than we could have guessed. The Tuesday before Ethan arrived, a cream-colored envelope appeared on my doorstep. Inside was a violation notice with a digitally altered image of my house, the wildflower garden replaced by a manicured lawn. Unauthorized vegetation. Due law 100 daily fine until corrected. I demanded a meeting with Lillian. She showed up at 2 p.m. Sharp, designer sunglasses perched atop her sleek hair, tablet in her manicured hands. "Mr. Carter," she began without preamble, "I appreciate your prompt response." I explained the garden's native plants were county-approved for water conservation, showing her our xeriscaping certification and a wildlife habitat plaque from the Greenleaf Society. "Those programs don't override our covenant," she replied coolly. Section 2 mandates aesthetic harmony with neighboring properties. I pressed, "These plants are drought-resistant in year 3 of water restrictions." Her response was firm, "Environmental concerns don't trump community standards." Then I added, my voice catching, "This was my wife's last project before she died. It's her memorial." For a fleeting moment, something softened in Lillian's eye, maybe a glimpse of empathy, but it vanished. "Personal circumstances can't influence uniform enforcement," she said. "You have 7 days. The fine hit due law $700 in a week." My teacher's pension was already thin after Emily's medical bills. I requested a full board hearing, only to face unfamiliar faces beside Lillian, their expressions cold and detached. By month's end, my violation notices filled a folder, my mailbox's non-regulation design, unchanged for a decade, my American flag, improperly displayed, despite following protocol I taught my students. The stone path to Emily's garden flagged as unapproved hardscaping. I wasn't alone. Helen Grayson, 72, a widow and Pinewood original, got citations for her prize-winning roses. Mark Thompson, a retired firefighter, was fined for leaving his garage door open 4 hours while building a dollhouse for his granddaughter. Javier Morales faced violations for the accessibility ramp he'd built for his elderly mother. At the monthly HOA meeting, attendance surged with frustrated residents. Lillian stayed composed, flanked by 2 compliance consultants. "We're enforcing the bylaws you agreed to when you bought your homes," she said as complaints piled up. "If these standards feel burdensome, perhaps Pinewood isn't right for you." That night, I spread a neighborhood map across my dining table, marking homes with violations. A pattern emerged, an L-shaped cluster targeting older residents on fixed incomes. Digging into online property records, I found 6 homes near the entrance had been sold to LL Saul linked to Harper Development Partners. The name Harper wasn't a coincidence. I documented everything, dates, times, exact wording like the history teacher I was. These habits would soon prove crucial. Saturday was perfect. Blue skies, my grandson Liam winning his championship game with a pitch that brought tears to my eyes. Just like Grandpa, my son said as we celebrated with ice cream. After 15 years teaching other people's kids, these family moments were everything. I was still smiling when I turned onto Pinewood Lane at 5:30 p.m., planning Ethan's VY sit until I slammed on the brakes. My house was gone, replaced by a plywood fortress. A laminated notice was stapled to the door, property in violation. Access restricted per section 8.3. Heart pounding, I rushed across my lawn. There stood Lillian, clipboard in hand, her expression icy. "What have you done to my house?" I shouted, gesturing at the sealed windows and doors. "Mr. Carter," she replied smoothly, "your repeated violations and unpaid fines triggered enforcement under Section 8.3. This is private property." I stepped closer. "You can't board at my home without notice." Consulting her clipboard with a faint smirk, she said, "This property's been deemed uninhabitable due to neglect and environmental hazards." Hazards from county-approved plants? That's ridiculous. "The determination's been made," she said firmly. "Submit an appeal for next month's meeting if you disagree." "Next month? Where do I live until then?" "That's not the HOA's concern," she replied, then added, "However, Summit Properties is prepared to make a generous offer on your home as is. It'd resolve everything." The calculated nature of this hit me. This wasn't enforcement, it was a takedown. The police arrived after my call, but the officer's face fell as he reviewed the HOA papers. "This is a COA matter, sir. The covenant allows enforcement. We can't intervene. They locked me out without notice." I pointed at the boards. "My blood pressure meds are inside, I need them tonight." He hesitated, then radioed his sergeant. "We can't break the seal without a court order, but we'll get you emergency meds and a welfare check." As he left, Lillian approached with paperwork. "Summit Properties will waive all fines if you sell. Offer expires tomorrow." I glared. "This isn't about standards, it's about forcing people out for profit." Her smile tightened. "I'm offering a solution." She handed me a card and walked off, leaving me homeless in front of my own house. That night, my neighbor Jawar took me in. I sat at his kitchen table, a 45-year-old man suddenly without clothes or even a toothbrush. His wife, Sophia, lent me her son's clothes and toiletries while Javi are called veterans for spare meds. Through his window, I saw a security guard pacing my yard. Flashlight sweeping my boarded-up home. Monday, I met Rachel Ortiz, a property rights attorney. Her face grew grim as she reviewed my files. "They've overstepped legally, Mr. Carter. But HOA disputes are slow to resolve. So they can just lock me out? Not if we prove emergency need your meds, your wife's ashes, everything inside." She requested an emergency hearing, but Judge Watkins was away. Levying Judge Daniel Pierce, a former real estate lawyer tied to Summit Properties, to handle it. "A conflict of interest," Rachel said, pulling up a planning map. My violation pattern matched a commercial development zone. Summit had pre-approved plans before Lillian's election. "This is a takeover using the HOA as a tool," she said. That evening, Ethan arrived by taxi, duffel bag slung over his shoulder, his seal-honed awareness scanning the scene. "Dave," he called, then froze, staring at my boarded house. "What happened?" I explained everything. His expression darkened. "So, an HOA illegally seized her home, targeting vulnerable residents, and the police won't act?" "That's it," I said. "You've documented it all? Every detail?" A faint smile crossed his face. Still the history teacher. His eyes narrowed. "Tell me about Lillian Harper and her husband." Over dinner at Javi's, Ethan met affected neighbors, asking sharp questions. After, he made calls in clipped military tones. "I've got people Kaminjak's teammates in intelligence, forensics, and PR." "Ethan, this isn't a war," I cautioned. "It is," he replied. "They're using asymmetric tactics against civilians. My career was built for this." That night, he pored over my notes, tracing the L-shaped violation pattern. Phase 1, soft targets bought out cheap. Phase 2, pressure on resistors like you. They've got a playbook. He opened his laptop. "Time to profile the enemy." For 2 sleepless nights, Ethan and his contacts dug into Lillian and her husband, Paul Harper, uncovering a pattern. 3 other communities hit with the same strategy: install an HOA puppet, enforce violations, scoop up devalued properties. Court records showed settled lawsuits silenced by NDAs. A whistleblower revealed Lillian's consulting fees from Summit while HOA president proof of fraud. 2 ex-colleagues arrived, Luis, a digital expert, and Greg, a human intelligence specialist. We need financial ties, enforcement patterns, and their endgame, Ethan said. Sarah pursued legal channels while Ethan's team gathered intel. Luis set up secure resident reporting. Greg vetted board members. By day 3, we'd rallied 17 veterans in Pinewood Army Rangers, Air Force intel, Marines, each bringing skills and resolve. Luis traced sloppy LLCs back to Paul Harper. Javier's daughter, Isabella, found Paul's university lecture online, detailing Pinewood's revitalization 6 months prior, complete with renderings. This is our proof, Ethan said. They planned it before Lillian ran. Ethan's strategy shifted to offense. Veterans set up surveillance. Marissa, ex-Air Force, built an encrypted EVY system. When a guard blocked Ethan from photographing my house, he cited public filming laws, nodding to a neighbor recording. Every move's documented for CIVL right suits, he said. The guard backed off. They're used to bullying seniors, not facing veterans, Ethan grinned. Rachel filed an injunction with neighbor Afida VYTS in Paul's lecture. Ethan tipped off Channel 8's Tom Reynolds, a war buddy, who called it corporate predation. Judge Ellen Hayes, back early, issued a restraining order, and boards came off my door. Inside, I found a Summit clipboard with renderings dated before my first violation, irrefutable EVY denke. At the packed HOA meeting, Ethan stood. I'm Commander Ethan Carter, 25-year SEAL. My brother's home was seized illegally in a scheme to force sales for Summit's development. He projected Paul's lecture. Lillian tried to adjourn, but residents overruled her. Helen spoke, 17 violations in 3 months after refusing Summit's offer. Tom's cameras rolled. Lillian and Paul fled as Ethan warned. The Attorney General's been briefed. The fallout was swift. Injunctions expanded, fines suspended, Lillian and board members ousted. Harold, a veteran, became interim president, nullifying violations. Summit halted plans. Neighbors restored my home and garden, adding a plaque for Emily. A preservation fund launched, fueled by penalties from Summit's settlement 8 months later. My garden thrives, a symbol of a community reborn. Mike's network now aids others facing similar fights. The lesson: document, unite, and shine light on injustice. They underestimated a teacher and a SEL, but their real mistake was missing the strength behind every Pinewood door.